And thank you so much, Lilimar. And good to see you today.
You too. Thanks for coming in.
Awesome. Get the glasses on so I can actually read my notes here. Um, so just to get started, first of all, I love the film so much. I was already a huge fan of Inside Out, the first film, and two is like so much more complex and rich. And I loved honestly Val's participation in it, like just bringing the hockey team in and like what they mean to Riley and all that. It was so great. So thank you for what you brought to the film.
Thank you.
Um, I wanted to ask you what drew you to the part in the first place. What spoke to you about Val, and how did you get into this role?
I received a special little audition in my email box, and I didn't know very many details at all about really what it was. It just felt like something that was in my voice range, and definitely had it in my little voice toolkit, as I say. And I was like, okay, I could do a run at this. I got this. And just I really really love characters that are very grounded, and it's fun when you get to use your own voice for the most part. So I gave it a go, forgot about it, never heard back. And then maybe barely like a month later, it's like, hey, remember? It's Inside Out 2. Just thought you should know. You're in. And I was like, oh, that's not insane at all. So definitely a very kind of surprising, but very, very exciting process. I was just very happy to do kind of I love playing cool girls, but it was nice to step away, I think, from any kind of mean girl trope, and just there was so much intention behind Val, so it was refreshing.
Yeah, no, I was gonna say she's an older girl. It could have easily been something where like Riley felt very like really intimidated by her and like felt bullied by her, and she was just so supportive. Like the whole team seemed very supportive of her. Um, and actually, that was something too that I noticed is that the whole hockey team is kind of like multi-ethnic, which I thought was really great. Was that the intention going in, like, or did they kind of cast first and then kind of design the characters around who they cast? Like, what was that process?
I'm not too sure on kind of just everything behind the scenes, but at least for me, like once I came in, I was able to immediately have like there was a mood board up.
Mm.
Like I got to see Val, the team, what they had designed for some of the locations. So it was kind of like I think it was more so like, we have this in mind. It's been designed for a long time. There's a bunch of details in there already. Who kind of has the voice to really bring that to life? You know what I mean? I think that was the situation here. But yeah, that was something I appreciated too. Once I saw the team for the first time, I was like, oh, this is great. Like this is lovely. And I think there's a lot of people out there that still don't really understand just what that means to people. The more we have this, the more it really does look like the country that we're in because we're all here. So it's beautiful to see that too. Yeah.
Yeah, no, especially when you have like something taking place in a big city like San Francisco or like, LA or New York. It's like, no, this is what it looks like. Um, Now, just going into like you and your career for a second, because you've been obviously acting like for like most of your life,
Yes.
and I know you've done both live action and voiceover. What you know, uh, do you have a preference? And what is it about voiceover that you enjoy?
I At first I really did have a preference for live action, but I think the voiceover showed me so much. It was kind of like a little bit of like kind of went hand in hand with therapy almost, where it's like there is so much within your own voice that you get to unlock that kind of connects, I think, to your identity. And there was so much where like through voiceovers how I learned to, I think, open up more and take more risks, especially creatively. So I think voiceover quickly became something like an art form that's just very special to me too. And I'm someone that like my main thing, especially with acting, is just the character development. I love people. I love human pattern and just getting to know people, why they think the way that they do, why they are the way they are, and like practicing almost like an extreme form of empathy in order to really embody these people,
Yeah.
and their imperfections, even if in your real life you don't agree with them or whatever it may be. So I think in both live action and in voiceover, I get to do that. I get to have that sense of vulnerability and emotional risk taking. So I think quickly I was like, oh, okay, they're both very special to me in like different ways. So
Yeah. Well, that's no, because I've always been fascinated by voiceover, especially since, it can take so long to see a project, how what was the process from like, or how long did it take between you like actually recording the role and the film coming out?
yeah, I mean, this one compared to like other, like for example, like I've been, on video game projects that take like years. So it's like, what I mean? I think Pixar was actually like a pretty nice, happy medium for me. I think for me, they've shout out to the Pixar team. They've been doing this for way longer than I even joined. So this has been in the works for a very long time. But just as an actor, I think it was during the span of maybe like about a year almost two, where I did just separate like different maybe 3 or 4 sessions and things like that, where you just get to focus on all of your own scenes and everything. So it kind of becomes or feels like it's a quick thing, right? But I think from when it started to now, I think maybe just because I liked it and I had such a fun time and I look forward to just being there and being in the room with them, it felt a bit quick to me, but
Yeah.
it takes its time.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, it's amazing to me the work that goes into something like this. And did you get to record with other actors in the room, or was it like everybody kind of doing their own thing?
Yeah, I didn't get to because we're also coming from different places. The Pixar campus is in Oakland, I think, and I'm all the way in Miami most of the time, so it was definitely a while. But it's something that really made me happy. It was the voice actresses for Riley and her besties. I think they got maybe one. I don't know if they did more. One just a session together or got to be at the
Mhm.
Pixar campus together. I think I saw it. In one of their TikToks, and I was like, yes,
Huh.
it's good. And as someone that was a child actor too, like it just made me happy.
Yes.
Yeah.
That is awesome. No, and it makes sense for their relationship too, since they're like the core, group. To have them in the room together must have been really, really cool.
Right.
Um, Now, I mean, this story, and like you said, like you are now, older, you've been acting for a while, but now as an adult, watching a film like this, which is really the about the transition from being like a kid to going into like your teenage years, was there any part of the film that spoke to you in particular, like that resonated the most with you?
I think, funnily enough, it just made me very happy to be able to have that on a big screen and have that many people watch it. Because I think, at least for me, like, there was so much in my particular adolescence, very unique and one of a kind. There was so much of it that I didn't really like unpack until, into my 20s. And so to kind of have that out there for kids to look at, for kids to immediately see, okay, whatever my situation is, however I feel about it, I need to go inside and see whatever's going on. I need to interact with my body and my mind. It's always giving me messages through emotion. And I shouldn't reject it. I shouldn't, pretend it's not there, and I shouldn't demonize it. It's not a villain. It's working with me. And it's nice to kind of just have, a super cute cartoon does the job to just let you know, like, this is friendly, this is you, this is all a part of you. And I don't know, just seeing that in there, it was like, I watched and I was like, this is so special. It's so nice to have these tools there. I was privileged enough to have these kind of just open emotional talks with my family as I was going through this, or else, who knows, there's so much involved in working so early in life, even if I did love it and I don't regret any of it because it was spectacular. But it's just lovely to have that out there. It's necessary.
Yeah, no, it felt very just very accurate as far as like how the brain works and how like our feelings come up like and I think that they both for the first film and this film they had like they were actually talking to like psychiatrists or like professionals who could like guide that process. Yeah, it just felt very accurate to me. That's what I think I loved most about it. Now, I don't know how much you've been told. This is for the Mary Sue. We are a pop culture site that is kind of geared toward like intersectional feminism. So like we write about all like geeky stuff and whatever, but we're like women
I'm
focused.
amongst my people.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And so there's definitely having this be like a girl centric story. We kind of touched on this earlier, but like this story in particular really centers like girls supporting girls.
Yes.
And I'm wondering, and you mentioned like the mean girl tropes and everything. I wonder like what's your experience been of like kind of the roles you get and like the contrast between, maybe other projects and a role like this, which is it seemed to go out of its way to be like very supportive with the girls kind of even when there's conflict.
Absolutely. I think and I think during my career I've played a lot of like cool girls and I get that character a lot and sometimes I think it's within my usual demeanor maybe but it's interesting kind of growing up and seeing that and just everybody's different take on it but it's really special and I feel like it's very real when you have a cool girl which essentially I think is just a girl that's pretty like sitting pretty in her confidence that she
Yeah.
really built up for herself and not everybody likes that which is a truth but it's beautiful when we get to see that not be villainized like because a lot of the times it's like the villain is a cool girl is very confident is all of these things and it's like confidence doesn't have to come from vitriol doesn't have to come from stepping on other people stepping on other women in particular and the earlier we teach girls that your girls are going to be the ones that understand exactly what you go through throughout life the better because the more we go together and realize there's so much there's so much similarity between us especially taking into consideration how we can be more empathetic and understanding of our differences whether if it's class systems race all these other things it's very important to feel like girls are there for each other because it's a universal experience to a certain extent so to have the cool girl actually be cool it's really nice and it's refreshing.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. It's true that very often the cool girl, it's like that is the thing that makes her a villain. That's it's very interesting, and I to see the cool girl be a supportive cool girl, and that confidence is not villainized. I think that's a great point. Um, just some wrap up questions, just that I tend to ask everybody, since the Mary Sue talks a lot about like geek stuff and what we geek out about. What is one thing that you geek out about that you're like, oh, I love this, can't stop talking about it? It could be anything, pop culture or like some random topic or like the thing that you won't shut up about.
Oh my God. Okay, there's so much. Girl, I'm a yapper. Like it's either funnily enough, it's either K-pop or intersectional feminism. Like there's no in between. Like that's kind of where I'm at always. And when I find people that just like to get into both, and I think kind of mixing the two, and it's like I love getting into conversations about what people's music tastes and how open they are to like just different music says about them and their personality. It's a whole thing. But yes, especially how much, people listen to mixing the two, how much people listen to female artists, because some people don't listen to any at all. And sometimes that's pretty surprising to me. So yeah.
That is, yeah, no, it's interesting. And actually, so what favorite K-pop bands?
I've always been a BTS girly. I'm also a very, very huge ATEEZ fan. I love
Okay.
ATEEZ. So I love TXT and I love New Jeans. So those are my favorites that come to mind right now.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So we're gonna get that conversation going over at the Mary Sue. And last question, what is a way that like I myself, I am obviously a woman, I'm Puerto Rican, queer, all of these stuff, and like all of that feeds into my work in different ways. I'm curious about like what's one way that your work and your identities intersect, whether it's like how do you like approach choosing roles or
Yeah.
it's a big question, but like
Yeah, I like this question. Oh my God, where do I start? I think for me it was interesting. I'm Cuban, and so but I would say like mainly more Cuban American because I grew up with like my entire family is Cuban. The idiosyncrasy that I grew up with really is that, and growing up in Miami, there's such a huge like it's
Yeah.
Cubans everywhere.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's, you know what I mean? I grew up around that while also kind of balancing American culture in general. So I think just that part of my identity kind of flows in, and it's something particular that I think I noticed when it comes to just very, very like full on American media, while trying to find how you place yourself in that, still bringing the Latino identity with you. And I think for me, it's like I never noticed how expressive my face or my jokes or my hand gestures in particular. My hand gestures are very Cuban. That's the one thing that, like, yeah, it like you'll know immediately the second you see me talking with my hands. But it was interesting balancing that, and I think sometimes understanding how much I had to like lower it in certain roles. It was just interesting, I think, because there are sometimes where people might kind of interpret it as like, oh, are you doing like sitcom acting? I'm like, no. This is genuinely how expressive we get. And it got into this whole conversation with my family and I over the years on just expression and the difference between general, I think, facial and hand expressions between like general like America, like your family lineage goes very, very back, only in America versus like coming from somewhere else. Yeah, and I think I got to a sweet spot of just incorporating that side of myself and not feeling like it's wrong or like it's malplaced anywhere or anything like that.
Yeah.
And balancing, you know, what the tone of the whatever I'm auditioning for is. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for your time and for this role. I love the film and congratulations on its huge success.
Thank you so much. I love this conversation. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Have a great rest of your day.
You too. Have a good